Hi and hello, watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood watchmaker Rob Nuds, and our friendly neighborhood jeweler Alon Ben Joseph, who has been very, very well behaved over the last few days and has avoided the Real Time network chat in WhatsApp, so he has no idea of the results from the recent Only Watch auction that took place in Switzerland last week. Now, we made it through not quite half of the 47 lots available, so we're going to pick up the pace in this episode and get through the remainder. We're going to kick things off using the same format as last time, where I tell Alon which lot is going under the hammer and he chooses whether or not it's missed, made, or mashed. It's estimate. So last time we rounded the show off with the H. Moser times MB&F Streamliner legacy machine, I guess you'd say. It's something very special. That one did land within its estimate of between 300 and 400,000 Swiss francs, attaining a sale price of 380,000. Now remember, this is a charity auction, so not only are there no fees available as there normally would be, no hammer fees, there is also the opportunity for buyers to write off this expense as a charitable donation. So a real incentive to buy. Will we see that reflected in the prices achieved by the remaining 28 lots? Okay. Hermes. Welcome, Alon, by the way. Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing actually very well, although I have a severe case of cold turkey. Today is Tuesday, the 14th of May. We have recorded on Friday, 10th. That's the day the auction took place. I literally ducked and dove. And if you want a metaphor, remember the Matrix or Keanu Reeves bends backwards to dodge bullets? That's what I did on social media and talking to watch nerds, because I've literally not gone into the TRTS network. I've just posted my almost daily WOMW, so what's on my wrist shots, but I simply do picture, share in the network, and I don't read what goes on there. So I just logged in, so my notifications go to 0, but I didn't read the thing on internet and newsletters and Instagram. Whenever I thought it's something auction, because apparently there were more auctions this weekend, but I simply ignored everything auction. So I am really blank. Thank you for all of you that sent me a DM with feedback that you enjoyed this episode, because I really enjoyed doing it. So I'm very excited to do part 2 today. So, Rob, tell us about the Hermes.
Okay, so this is one of Hermes's most visible case shapes, I would say. I think it's the Lasso. Probably butcher the pronunciation as usual, but it's a slightly asymmetrical lugs on a round, I would say, bowl-shaped case. Has a off-center time-telling dial, in this case in blue degradé. Surrounding the globe that is in the center of the dial are all the time zones in rainbow colors. So it fulfills the remit that Only Watch set brands to try and use rainbow colors in their designs. Its estimate was 30 to 40,000 Swiss francs. I assume you have Revolution's article up in front of you as you did previously, so you can see the model. Do you think that this made it, missed it, or mashed it?
Honestly, I have to say kudos to Hermes for honoring the theme of this year, rainbow, tutti frutti, very colorful. I do not think it's a beautiful watch. I think that those that usually buy Hermes won't think so either. But because Chanel smashed their estimate, I apply the same analogy, and I think that this went for 50.
Well, good thinking. It went for 60, so you're on the right track. It certainly impressed someone, or a couple of people at least, to drive the price up to that point. And congratulations to Hermes, one of our favorite brands on the Real Time Show, actually, especially when you count David's passion for them and other, shall we say, in inverted commas, where it all began, our relationship with David, fashion watches. Although Hermes has achieved great things from a watchmaking perspective by this point and doesn't deserve to be thrown away in the same category as some people often like to deride. Okay, next brand. Another one of our favorites on the show, Hublot. Very, very recognizable watch, flowers, diamonds, smiley faces, a lot of fun. An estimate that is no laughing matter, though, 350,000 francs to 400,000 francs. Did it make it? Did it surpass it? Or did it fall just short?
Kudos to Hublot. Unlike, and this gave a lot of people a lot of laughter in my last episode, going ballistic on B&B. So kudos to Hublot to opening up their wallets, because they don't need to use the hype beast Takashi Murakami for this, okay? But they did. They didn't hold back. And I love Murakami. I love all the watches that they did with Hublot. Now, it's a very steep estimate. And up until now, I've had rather some wrong guesses. And I see that when it passes the 100K, quarter mil, it becomes very tricky. And we've been surprised by what I used is the star power, the brand power, the stardust that the brands have or don't have. So there's a lot of bashing for Hublot, but they have a big following. And Murakami has a big following, especially in Asia. So my guess is that it was bang in the middle of the estimate, which surprisingly is a small delta between 350 to 400, because percentage-wise is not such a big delta for the estimate. So I guess it came in at 375.
It's an interesting thing, the comment on the delta, and why auction houses sometimes have very wide deltas and have occasionally very tight ones like this. I would guess that in the case of this watch, they think that there's a sort of material value to this piece because of the stones setting, the stones themselves, the brand cachet, etc., etc. But I think that they're probably thinking this will sell for about what it's worth, rather than running away with the estimate like FP Journe did with a 2 million sale on what is very much a daily wear kind of watch. If a 2 million euro or franc watch could ever be said to be such a thing. This is obviously a very occasional piece, but it is very special, and it was special enough to just beat its estimate, 420. But given the small delta and given your guess, you came very close to it, and your logic, I think, was very sound.
Thank you. Congrats to all the parties. But again, in the good old days, this would have gone to 600K, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, quite possibly. But what about Jacques Dreux, the next one on the list, lot 21, estimate of 250,000 to 300,000 francs. Now, for me, in my opinion, that's a huge estimate for a watch from a brand that, although I love very much for many of its pieces, does not have that kind of cachet, in my opinion. What do you think?
Totally agree. And if it reached this estimate, and you have my answer there, I don't think it did. The one that paid more than $250,000 was probably taking these psychedelics that designer was taking while he designed this watch. And the funny thing is, I love it. But why so many Rolling Stone logos, so the mouth with the tongue sticking out, on the strap? That's maybe the thing that bothers me the most about this watch.
Well, you could always put it on a NATO, I suppose.
Yeah, that would be cool. So, if I have to guess, I don't think it made the estimate. I think it got stuck at 150, which I think still is a lot.
Oh, I wish I could give out a gold star. You've absolutely nailed it. 150,000 francs. Exactly.
Really?
Well done. It's your first on the nose. I think you were 500 francs off on the Baltic, which was cruel. You put yourself in a hole there with the 55,500 guess. But 1,500 Swiss francs is correct. I think it's a stunning amount of money for a watch that I would choose Mr. Jones over.
Since I've been bashing Swatch Group so much in the previous episode, kudos to them for not being stingy on this lot.
Just make a good watch, though. You're right. They embraced the theme and they really went for it. But I mean, this is a step too far. They could have split the aggregate effort put into the Breguet, Blancpain, and Jacques Dreux and had 3 amazing watches. But as it is, they've got an absolute weirdo in the Breguet, a very underwhelming watch in the Blancpain, and this, which, good grief, shocking. Anyway, Talking about something that's shocking for a different reason, because there's a little face on your wrist staring up at you every time you look down to tell the time. This is Konstantin Chaikin with one of his famous Joker watches, of course, a Wristmon like few others. I love the look of this one. It has a very unusual appearance. Its estimate was a rather, I think, demure 30 to 50,000 francs. What do you reckon this one went for?
Before I answer that, I'm very curious if you know what Bulat stainless steel is.
I remember that KC has used this before on, I think it was called the Lunokhod Moon Phase, which was one of my favorite pieces from him. But its composition, I'm afraid, I don't remember. I have a feeling it's kind of like old steel somehow from like some part of Russia, like maybe some industrial heritage nod. I don't know. But it's a gorgeous effect. It's really beautiful how mottled it is and how naturally interesting it is.
I am actually very much in love. I love these Joker watches. I know they do well with collectors. And you and I have met Mr. Chaikin, where we recorded that funny Instagram reel with the minions. And I know from our dear friend and TRTS member, Pietro Tomagier, their authorized dealers for Chaikin, that they are very wanted still today. So I think this watch smashed its estimate and it went for 120.
You almost got two in a row. It was 110.
Wow.
But you're absolutely on the right track. I just did a quick check. Bulat steel is effectively Russian Wootz steel, or similar to Damascus, so crucible steel. It was used for weapons. It's from the medieval times. It comes from the Russian translation of the Persian word fulad, which you'll be familiar with as a Persian speaker. So, used by the armies of nomadic peoples. Bulat steel was the main type of steel used for swords in the armies of Genghis Khan. So, a real throwback to his nation's heritage from Konstantin there, and a wonderful success. Congratulations. Deserved it.
Well done. Yeah, rightfully so. And I'll maybe add to every lot that we guess now, because I noticed that our listeners liked the commentary that you and I did, that it says a bit about the state of the brands in current climate. So it shows that the conflict, well, that's a wrong word, the war there did not harm the Russian brand that much. And that collectors really appreciate what Chaikin is doing. So that's interesting to see.
I think it's very interesting with Chaikin. I think it's an independent case study, because I know that it has had an effect on brands such as Raketa internationally. Chaikin never seemed to really be that touched by it, even in the early days of the war, soon after the invasion, when he commented that he was completely, against this kind of activity, shall we say. And media outlets the world over were deciding whether they were going to put an embargo on all Russian-made products. And for the most part, brands were left out in the cold, but not Chaikin. Somehow his artistry, his mastery, his popularity managed to get him a pass on that front. So, yeah, this auction result speaks volumes in that direction. Next up, Lot 23, Crayon. Now, talking about the state of brands, I've heard good things about Crayon. I thought good things about Crayon. I've been very impressed by the products when I've had them in my hands and on my wrist. The estimate of this absolutely stunning piece is 150,000 Swiss francs to 250,000 Swiss francs. So you've got a bit of delta to work with there, Alon, but did it need the delta?
Interesting. So he is a bit of a wonder boy, and the video, I believe it was it Talking Watches with Jean Arnaud, where you see that he bought one as a private collector, sparked that hype even more. They're wanted. They used to go above list price. Although this is a Belgian painter, Theo van Rijsselbergen, it reminds me of Monet. I believe it went for 300,000.
Keep going. How far do you think it went? It went further than 3.
Really?
Yep.
555.
It went for 440,000 francs, and I believe it was one of those stunning out of nowhere bets where somebody just put their hand up and said 440, and that won it. Amazing.
So that's very interesting because you've seen that the heroes in the horlogerie segment are still the indies, or not still. They are capturing the market share now, and it seems they're here to stay. Because in this down cycle of the worldwide economy, apparently investors are banking on them and not the B&Bs of this world.
No, I think that there's a little something in this. You know how when we always talk about watch designs, I always profess to be product driven, and just making good watches is a very important thing. And this simply is not just a good watch from a mechanical perspective, because it has a complication that nobody really knew they needed. And probably maybe nobody does, but a wonderful thing anyway on the dial. But the artistry of it, like, this is a work of art. There is nothing like this. It is a piece unique. It's very special. The models most similar to it in the regular collection, I believe, are sold out already. So maybe someone that came to the brand late realized that they weren't able to sit on their hands and, hope to get a piece like the previous models in the future necessarily, and they just went for this. They pulled the trigger because this is artistry. Now, bear that in mind when we go on to the next lot, number 24 from Laurent Ferrier, another independent brand, another superstar of the modern era. Estimate price 55 to 85,000 for this extremely wearable on-track only watch special edition. What do you think?
Very interesting, because I'm subjective. I love Laurent Ferrier, both the man and the brand. They were hit a bit in the hype caused during the pandemic, and they didn't propel as far as the others. The others, I mean, Japek, H. Moser, C, etc. But I still know, or I do know, that they still have huge waiting lists. So I don't think it went 3 times the average of the estimate. I think it went for 120. They are. And if I was team member Laurent Ferrier, I would do very in-depth market research. Not saying they don't. I don't know if they do. But they missed out on the hype. The hype is cooling down. But I guess this auction is a thermometer. I've been thinking about what we've discussed during our last recording. So it's lingering in my mind. So this is almost therapeutic for me, these recordings. So I find this very interesting. And if I was a marketeer or owner or board member at Laurent Ferrier, I would start thinking why we did not reach more. I would actually ask collectors.
It's very interesting. Like you say, they didn't quite experience the rush of interest that brands like Japek or Moser did during the pandemic. Do you think that's because their starting price point is just a tick too high for the majority of luxury sports watch buyers?
I have some theories. Not one. For the sake of time, I want to pause this. I want to propose this question in the TRTS network, and let's accumulate all the feedback and discuss it during one of our Q&As. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We could definitely go on and on. Right, next up, this is lot 25. This is Lederer. This is a very interesting one. It's maybe a little bit of a turning point in the auction for reasons we'll discuss after you've made your guess. Now, the estimate of this piece was 100 to 200,000, so a massive delta, really, for a watch that is very well respected because of the mechanics within it. It's extremely modern take on what later is best known for, with this vivid green inlay, by the looks of things, on the bridges of the movement itself, which makes up the majority of the display. What do you think? Where did it land?
I really have no idea, so I'm jamming on air. I love Lederer. I know he has a following, but that following is not that big yet. We've seen a Lederer influence in the Čapek lot in episode 1. We've met him. This is a spectacular watch. The combination here is very modern for him, for the brand. I personally think there's too much going on, the black and the goldish colors with the green tones, but very funky. And it could be that this piqued the interest of, I call them the MBNF and Uhrwerk type of collectors. So I think it smashed its estimate. And it could be that it went for 250,000.
Well, it did smash its estimate, but unfortunately not in the direction you expected. This watch, estimated to go for 100 to 200,000 francs, from one of the most respected watchmakers, shall we say, actually achieved just 45,000 Swiss francs.
No way.
Now, caveat. As you know, the website of Christie's was down during the auction. They had technical problems. They said it was actually a security issue.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, now with some of the lots that will follow, there are questions as to how much of an issue this was. So far, we've not seen any issues whatsoever, but people weren't able to bid online. It was only phone and in person. They emailed all of the people registered to the auction the night before and said, we've identified these security issues. As such, there will be no online bidding. So
what?
Yeah, I know. So it might have been a surprise to some if they didn't see the email, and if they'd been planning on getting on the auction via the internet portal as normally they'd be able to. And maybe they didn't have the setup, they didn't have a phone with them, I don't know, or they didn't know exactly what process they should follow to place their bid. 45,000 for this piece is a shocking miss for the brand. It is really unfortunate.
You know what? I'm thinking out loud now. First of all, I'm in shock because this is shocking. I mean, in this time of day, you need backup servers, and I would have frozen the auction or postponed it. I'm serious. Secondly, I think that for the next Only Watch, they should start working with reserves maybe, because this is theft. No, this is theft. This is below cost. So how can that be? This defies even the purpose of a charity auction, in my humble opinion.
Well, let's look at it from this perspective, maybe, on the purpose of a charity auction. So, from a brand's perspective, this is a nice thing to do, but it's also great exposure. And as is often said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think anybody looking at this watch, knowing the history of the brand, isn't going to think, oh, that's only what that watch is worth. Maybe some people will think that, but I think a lot of people will be talking about this for years to come as the steal of the century. Theft, if you want to call it that. But I mean, it's an incredible buy for somebody wanting to buy into the Lederer family to have a piece unique below the retail, far below the retail of a regular Lederer, is quite something, shall we say. Now, bear that in mind, because there may be a few curveballs coming up that are blamed on this lack of internet portal.
I have a question for you. I love auctions, and I've been going to auctions ever since I'm a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I've organized some auctions also for charity. So I've worked hands-on with auctioneers. And when I was in the board and or committee of those charities, I made a big fuss about who we choose, not only as an auction house, but also who the actual auctioneer is, because they are artists. I didn't see the auction. Did this auctioneer do his or her magic? Mean work hard? Being an auctioneer is hard work. Did they work the room and the phones? Because apparently there was no internet.
So very interesting. There was, and this has come up in other criticisms. It's not just my personal take on it, but I watched quite a lot of the auction, and there was something of a schism between the auctioneer's approach to certain brands and others. And he really labored on a piece like the Bulgari, for example, and the Louis Vuitton as well, which is coming up. He spent a lot of time on that piece. The Lederer and another watch that is yet to be guessed upon by you also received very little time. It was a quick finish to the auction. I would say that the criticism is fair that he didn't give this piece and some pieces enough time, didn't push them enough. But in his defense, with no reserve, when a watch runs into a brick wall like this and there is no action, could he have spent a little longer on it? Yeah, I think he could actually with this one. Would it have made a huge difference?
Well, if I was the auctioneer, and I don't know if he or she did that, I would have said, guys, girls, come on. A normal model goes for, 120. How can you bid so little? Work on their guilt. In auctions for charity, the auctioneer says, guys, remember it's tax deductible, double your bids. It's really showtime. You need to sell.
Yeah, well, you say that, but there's 47 lots on the table here, and
I went to auctions with 200 lots, but okay, all right. Let's go to Louis Monet, Art Tech.
Yeah, okay. Estimated price 80,000 to 120. Now we know Louis Monet's got a decent following, especially in the Middle East. This is a really cool watch, but did it make its estimate?
Well, now you got me worried because obviously the tech problems started a bit here.
That's the thing. Did they start here? That's not really fair to say because nobody had. It's not like the portal went down halfway through the auction. It's just that. No. It was offline. Like they emailed people before the auction started and said there will be no online bidding. It's just that it's been referenced as a possible reason for some models. Like we noticed the Argenta coming in under half of its estimate at 170 when its low end estimate was 350. There is an argument being made that the lack of the internet portal affected some models negatively, but it might just be nonsense because we've seen other models absolutely smash their estimates, or models in this climate meet estimates that were quite hefty to begin with. So don't take it as gospel that everything's going to come below estimate now.
Okay. Reasoning. Louis Monet is amazing. I think not understood enough yet. I like the fact that they played on the theme. I like silicon on dials. Think of the Ulysse Nardin they launched during Geneva Watch Days. But I don't think it does so well on the market. And if Laurent Ferrier struggled a bit, I think they reached the bottom end of the estimate. So 80,000, that's what I think.
Well, they actually landed pretty comfortably in the estimate with a sale price of 110.
Okay.
Which I think is a great result. I was texting Jean-Marie as the auction was happening live saying, good luck. I hope that this one lands for you. And my feeling is, yeah, I think you're right. Louis Monet is not widely as understood as it deserves to be in the market, but I think that its collectors love it. And I think that with an auction, you only need a couple of people that get it, the brand, I mean, to really push a price up. So I think that this one did really, really well. I think that it's achieving its estimate in this climate was a great result.
I agree, because in the old climate, everything that did not smash the top end of your estimate would have been considered not doing well. Well, in this climate and what we've seen going on now with the technical issues and the economic climate and the postponing of the auction, I think that if you reach your estimate, whatever the delta is, because the deltas are all over the place, I agree with you. You do well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the start of the auction, my feeling was anyone hitting their estimate, low end or otherwise, had a great PR success on their hands. And the vast majority, met or exceeded estimates. And that brings us to Louis Vuitton, lot number 27, estimate 340 to 440. How did this one do?
I believe we had a similar piece in style for the GPHG. And I believe the style of watch got a lot of criticism, but this is so bonkers And I guess that Einstein is on the radar again, thanks to the movie
Oppenheimer.
So, and Le Cirque du Temple and Louis Vuitton and Jean are on fire. This one for 600,000.
That's a wild guess, considering the watch itself, but it wasn't wild enough. It ended up going under the hammer at 700,000 francs.
Okay.
But it struggled to get there. This one, the auctioneer worked his backside off for. It was hovering in the hundreds for ages. It looked like it was going to be a catastrophic failure. But he pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I watched this one with my mouth hanging wide open to see that it went from this almost ground to a halt to skyrocketing up to double its low-end estimate. Crazy stuff.
So it begs the question, Rob, was this market making or not?
I mean, there's a bit of that, I think. I mean, when you think about the models that really obviously received a lot of time on the stand, there are models that are very, very visible for the fair, for the auction, like the Bulgari. Models that are from major group brands with a lot of power in the industry, like Louis Vuitton. I'm not professing that there was some kind of conspiracy, but I think the attention shown to certain pieces over others, which I think was clear when you watch the auction, is something to discuss. And now, moving on to number 28, Ludovic Ballard and Brittany Nicole Cox, one of the famous upside-down pieces from Ludovic, one of the most adored, respected, beloved watchmakers in the industry. 60,000 to 90,000 was the estimate. Did it make it?
I think it did, because if you think about it, if you don't know this watch, it's interesting because there are 12 numbers, 12 round discs, and when it is the actual hour of that time, it is positioned in the correct way. So, and if it's all the 11 other numbers are upside down, so 180. Now, the guilloche done by Cox is amazing. Very, very unique pattern, which I've never seen before. And it literally runs through the 12 circles of the hour markers. And that makes it even more special. So if that's your vibe, your jam, so it could be there were Balois fans in there, could be they were guilloche fans in there. I think it did 100,000.
Ding, 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 ding. Nailed it. 100K. Perfect. On the nose. One of my favorite watches, favorite complications, favorite watchmakers from my early days as a watchmaker. I remember seeing the very first upside down at Salon QP years ago and being blown away by it. The price is obviously stratospheric in comparison to what they were in those days, but this guilloche dial, as you mentioned, is absolutely next level. And getting it to line up with those numbers is fine craftsmanship. However, this was one of the pieces that received so much of the sympathy online because it didn't go for anywhere near as much as people thought it should have gone. Yes, the top end estimate was 90,000. Yes, it exceeded that. But this was a piece that people really expected to run away. They thought that it would go for 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 even, because it's such a lovely concept, such a well executed idea from a maker who I said is widely adored.
I think it would have done in the good old days, but begs also the question: did the auctioneer works its toges off for this one?
Less so. That's the thing. Yeah. That was a marked shift from the previous lot. But let's not dive too deeply into the conspiracy side of things. Let's move on and let's try and rattle through a few quite quickly because we are obviously taking up more time than we intended, and we still have another 18 lots to get through. We're going to do this one really fast.
I'll shout. Maurice Lacroix did not smash it. I'm even doubting if it reached the 25. Just to be positive, what I'm usually am, and I always see the glass half full. They just made 25.
28. Very good. Montblanc, estimate 25 to 35.
Same story. I don't think they even reached the 25, the lower end of the estimate, unless a huge Montblanc pen fan said, you know what, F it, I want to do some good to the world and donate to charity. I'm going to say 23.
22. Very close. Very close. Right logic. So we just missed it.
But it shows, again, the thermometer for your brand status. It shows both brands where you are at. So food for thought, brand managers.
Next up, lot 31, Moritz Grossman, estimate 30 to 45,000. Now, it's got a beautiful tremblage dial, one of the, I think, best pieces in comparison to the regular offering that we've seen from any brand, because I think Moritz Grossman, as you know, I love everything Moritz Grossman could be, and I think that they very rarely pull it all together in a great watch. This is a great watch. Did it make its estimate?
I don't know if Grail Watch, the Revo side arm of very exceptional collabs and limited editions, they did a watch like this before the only watch lots were announced. So I'm lost on timeline now. So could be that one sold out rather quick. So could be that if you snoozed, you won it. I think it's an amazing piece. I find 30 to 45 very reasonable. I think it went for 65.
It went for 88.
Okay. Good.
So yeah, again,
Well,
another tick in your win column there. You did very well with that one. That was a
Yeah.
tough one, but yeah,
Ooh,
nice.
Now comes the firework.
Yeah, now comes the star of the show, the Patek Philippe Grand and Petit Sonnery minute repeater with a beautiful teal-coloured guilloche dial. Yeah, stunning.
Wow. Okay. As I wanted to say retail is at least towards 2 mil. This went, let me think, at least triple of my 2 mil, 6 mil. I think everybody was holding back for this lot. They put it, well, it's 2/3 in, I guess.
Well, it's alphabetical order, so you can't claim that any strategy.
No,
unfortunately.
time-wise. So time-wise, into the auction, everybody was holding their horses for this one. 6 million.
You want to change that again? I'll give you another bite of the cherry on this one. You're way off.
Way off?
Way off.
Higher?
Higher.
12 million.
Closer. But not quite.
More?
Yeah, more, yeah. This one went for 15,700,000, accounting for more than 50% of the entire take of the auction. And it was bought in the room. So, yeah, quite impressive. And
Wow.
look, I don't often fawn over Patek, but this might be the nicest Patek I've ever seen in my life.
Well, okay, yeah, okay, I'm with you. It show talking about thermometer, the undisputed emperor of the Holy Trinity has struck again. Shows that the high rollers are very contemporary in collecting, because you see the money is there, the willingness to spend and overspend is there. So some brands really got punished. But congrats. And you know what? Kudos to Patek not pulling out, because they're also family-owned, independent, like Audemars Piguet. And again, shame on you, Audemars Piguet, for pulling out.
Incredible result. Next up, lot 33, Peterman Beda and Offray, Paris. Estimate 50k to 100k. Now, I think we actually had this watch in our hands when we were in Watches and Wonders, right?
Theo had it on his wrist, I believe. He had it on his wrist. He was super friendly. Took it off. Let me play with it. It's actually on my Instagram, but maybe a reel, but definitely a picture. Spectacular watch. He has some, well, both of them actually. All three of them actually, I have to say. So Theo Offray in Paris. But Peterman and Beda are doing amazing stuff. So this is a star assembly. I think it went maybe, if there was a crazy bidder, and let's act crazy because we come off an extreme high after the Patek, so people are antsy. And if you missed out on that, you want to spend your money. I'm going to do crazy, 250,000.
You're almost on the money. It's 240,000. So great guess, great logic. Beautiful watch. I must admit, when I had it on my wrist, I didn't realize that I was wearing a 250,000 watch, but it's a stunner. It's timeless. It's a great calling card for this, assembly, this super team of watchmakers. So good stuff. Great result. Well deserved. Beautiful watch. more of the same, please. We're going to rattle through the next 4, okay?
Yes.
Because they're not the most like electrifying brands at the moment, even though number 34 is from Piaget, who's obviously been in the headlines recently for its Polo, re-release of the Polo. The estimated price of this particular model is 50,000 to 80,000 francs.
Most probably they went just above the high end of the estimate. But you know what? I've been so hard on the BMBs. I also want to smash Richemont a bit. Shame on you for not doing either a world-breaking record Altiplano or a hardcore tourbillon crazy jeweled out piece or something for the ladies. So shame on you. It probably went for 85, but I don't think you deserve it because it's a boring as fuck watch.
I agree with your assessment that it's boring as fuck. It went for 100,000.
Okay. Says it all.
Yeah.
The market was not impressed.
Next up, Reservoir and Telos. Estimated price 50 to 60,000. Did it make it? Did it miss it? Tight delta.
Very interesting. So Francois visiting me in Amsterdam had this watch on the wrist. I had time to play with it. It's actually spectacular. Very cool tourbillon. I don't know if the market understood what it is. I sincerely hoped it reached the 100K, but it didn't. I think it came in at 65.
Came in at 55, so it's slam in the middle of the estimate. Not bad.
Not bad.
Because
not bad.
it could have been very misunderstood. It could have missed because it was an ambitious project but well executed.
Yeah.
Next up, our friend Benoit from Ressence. Estimate.
He smashed it.
You don't even need me to give you the estimate. Estimate's 20 to 30K. What did it sell for?
I think there is, like Louis Monet, a growing circle of Ressence nuts, not rub nuts, but like crazy nuts. It's weird with the X, and it runs through the middle of the 3 subdials, and it's weird when it turns, right? Because they're satellites, let's say. But I really hope it surpassed 100K, so I'm gonna say 100K.
It made it to 70, which I think, given the estimate, is a really strong performance. I was a little surprised it didn't go higher as well, to be honest, because Ressence, I think, is much easier to understand than Louis Monet as a brand. You don't need to know the history, you just need to look at the thing. And you're like, okay, that's like nothing else. And I think that its price point means it's the kind of watch that a lot of serious collectors just want to wear and want to own because it's so different. So yeah, I'm a little surprised it didn't go for higher, but I think when you, basically triple your estimate.
Yeah, that's smashing it. So well done.
All right, talking about tripling or multiples of an estimate, let's go on to the Golden Boy, Recep Recepi. Estimated price, 100,000 to 150,000. Take it away.
So I think my gut feeling is saying this was fireworks number 2. You know what? I'm going to do crazy stuff. I think it surpassed the 1 million. And maybe it did 10-fold of the high end of the estimate. I'm going to say 1.5 million. Well,
quick maths. I think it did 14-fold. Someone's going to correct me that that's wrong. But it went for 2.1 million. So this one, interesting comparison, by the way, because this is the third watch we've had that's surpassed 1 million. We had the FP Journe at 2 on the nose. We had this at 2.1 and the Patek at 15.7. Of course, people are comparing the result of this to the FP Journe, and they're saying the old guard versus the new guard, and the new guard just got a nose in front. So incredible result for Recep to continue building his brand and his legend. Lovely watch. Great piece.
That's amazing and well-deserved and very interesting analysis. So for you, dear collectors, if you are dabbling in that segment of horlogerie and you're a bit reluctant and you come from the old world like me, so the Holy Trinity, the Pateks of this world, and the Vacherons, and the Audemars Piguet, the Jaeger LeCoultre, and whatever, and the Langes, and you're a bit afraid that buying into these new kids on the block, that A, will they be serviceable, or B, will they keep their value? Don't worry. We see the proof is in the pudding, and actually we knew this already because we always keep on talking about our dear friend, Sylvain Bernard, whom we love, and his books were full already 3 years ahead. I believe after the social media blast during Watches and Wonders, he filled it, surpassed 2028, I believe. But there are a lot of collectors still scared to, I don't want to use the word invest, to consume this product. So buy it and enjoy it. Well, we've seen what's going on here. Don't be scared anymore.
By the looks of the next lot, the number 38 from Richard Mille, there are some people who are entirely fearless in the bidding community. The estimated price was 600 to 800,000 francs for what is the wildest creation, I think we can say, of the entire Only Watch auction. This is a necklace. It is extremely tribal, extremely cool, but very, very niche. How did it perform, Alon?
The estimate is already near $1 million, so this definitely went past 1, 2, and maybe even 3. Why? One of the biggest Richard Mille fans, and one of the most famous ones, is Pharrell. I believe he had or has one of these, this style. So Richard Mille from day one was a star, never ever lost its luster or sparkle. And for those that like modern horlogerie, they didn't get their fancy tickled only maybe by the MB&F and Moser collab. So they splurged here. I don't think it's tenfold, so I don't think it went to 6 to 8 million. Let me say 5 times, 350,000, 3.5 million, sorry.
Not quite that high, but still a great amount, 2,380,000, which when you consider how niche a proposition this is, there are very few people in the world who could wear this seriously and regularly. Pharrell is maybe one of them, but perhaps it went to a female collector. I don't know. Perhaps it's a bit more versatile on a female than it is on a male, but each to their own. I'd certainly love to rock it myself. Not sure how it would match up with my chest hair, but I'd give it a go. If someone wants to lend me one, we'll see what it looks like on Instagram. On to lot 39. My favorite from the fair, actually. I keep calling it a fair, auction. It is a bit of a fair of watchmaking in its own way. Singer Reimagined and Genus. Now, this was the one that really piqued my interest. I love the colorway. I love the collaboration of two brands doing their own thing. Its estimate was 100 to 120,000. Did it make it?
Yes, definitely. I love Singer Reimagined. I love Genus. They hit the nail on the head on everything. Font, layout, technology, design. And as you said, it's all about a good watch. Could be that they still are up and coming, both of them, so maybe less understood. I would have hoped it made 500,000. It didn't. I think it went for 180.
It actually only just made it to the estimate. It went for 100.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's this is a steal for fans of either brand, especially someone after a Genus, because their starting price point is, well, their newer model is around 50k, which is a massive drop in their entry level. But previously, I think their starting price was like 120. And to have the Singer branding and the colorway, the movement, it's a lot of watch.
There's a lot of watch, and that person that bought it, kudos to you, because you understand what you're buying and you're an awesome collector.
All right, quick one. Lot 40, Speak Marin. Estimated price 35 to 65. It's got a Ripple dial.
Didn't make it and got stuck at 27.
Oh, it did make it, but not by much, 45k. So okay. Good result for Speak Marin, I think. With a model like that isn't too far away from the core collection, that's a nice result. Lot 41, Sylvain Pinault. Estimated price 70,000 to 100,000. Very well thought of watchmaker. What do you think, Alan?
A, I love his watches. B, as a person, he's an amazing guy. Great energy, positive, laughs all the time. Some subjective. He's not that young anymore, but he's also one of these new kids on the block. I think he did surpass his estimate. I guess he got stuck at 120.
No, it did not. It got stuck at 220, and that's where the hammer fell.
Okay. All right. So maybe I'm lagging and his star is rising. Congrats. Amazing. I'm happy.
Up next is a fascinating, you knew that word was going to make an appearance at some point in this show, fascinating result from Tag Heuer. Estimated price 150 to 300,000 francs. How well did it do?
Well, we know that the Arnauds and the LVMH clan know how to hype things. I suspect they did a bit of tiny market making there at the Louis Vuitton watch. I'm quite sure they did that here as well. So this went above the estimate. They hoped to surpass 1 million. It definitely didn't. I think it got stuck at 350.
They would have loved it if it had got stuck at 350, because this may be, given what you said and given what we saw previously, the shock of the show. This model went for 110 Swiss francs. It missed the estimate, and I believe, off the top of my head, I think it's even under the retail of the limited run of a similar model that Tag Heuer put out a few months back. So, shocked because Tag Heuer has such a following. Monaco is such an iconic piece, although not my cup of tea. What do you think?
Well, there goes my theory about market making. So, what do I think? I think that the people involved with the brand should take this as a very important lesson, that what's the elasticity of a brand in pricing? How far can you go up or down with your brand image? What does the market accept? And I think that Frédéric Arnault took it too far with Tag Heuer, and he keeps on pushing. You see that in the regular collections. And I'm quite confident that Julien Tourneur will cool him down, because it's a volume brand. And making Monaco's now surpass the 10K, we see it with a lot of brands with iconic chronographs. Looking at Daytonas, they all want to surpass the 10K, and they're all creeping towards Daytona pricing. But it doesn't surprise me.
Okay. On to lot 43, Tiffany & Co. Beautiful piece, really gorgeous piece of jewelry, nice necklace with a little tiny bird on top, diamond encrusted. Estimated price, a whopping 350 to 500. Now, we've seen one necklace obliterate its estimate. Did this one do the same?
Again, Arnault family, again LVMH. This is Alexandre Arnault, who's not the CEO. Yet, as a jeweler, I love it. As a watch nerd, I love it. Very steep estimate. So this is a tough call, but no way they would let this go below. So it went for 555.
They let it go for 120.
What?
Yeah. Not 120 francs. Like, obviously, if it was 120 francs, I would have bought it myself.
You can't get a hot dog for 120.
Incredible. Yeah, an enormous miss. I don't know what the estimate was based on. I would guess probably a huge amount of historical data from Tiffany jewelry auctions. Maybe the wrong crowd, but it seems unfathomable that someone in the audience, especially given the color of that stone, you would have thought this would have gone somewhere in Dubai. But then it's gold, so maybe it can't. Maybe that was against it. Didn't think about that. Don't wear gold in Dubai, do they? So, yeah. Perhaps that had something to do with it. Next time, Tiffany make it in platinum, and we'll see it hit that 500,000 or 555, as Alan predicted. Okay, next up, Alan, one of your favorite new brands, Trilobe. Trilobe, beautiful stuff. Estimated price 25,000 to 35,000. A very modest estimate for a brand that has been on many lips over the last couple of years. But did it make it in this climate?
I think it did. It appeals to several types of buyers. Watch nerds, fans of design, and maybe fans of Japanese art, because kintsugi is an amazing technology, or technique. It's not a technology. And it seems that Trilobe appeals to intellectual type of buyers. So it went above the 35. I think it got stuck at 50.
Okay, so I feel a little guilty at this point for effectively removing you from the Only Watch auction, because I think you might have bought this piece. I think you might actually have been the high bidder. if you'd been involved in this auction, because I'm going to tell you now, it didn't break the top end of its estimate. How much would you have put down for this piece for your own personal collection? Do you like it?
If I would have gone to this auction physically, I would put, back in the days, you would get an auction book and then you have the estimates in there and then everybody would write their maximum bid and minimum bid, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you used to do that. I used to do that always.
No, I grew up in Glossop. I've never been to an auction in my life.
Okay. So maybe you and I should go to that auction weekend just for fun and banter and maybe buying apparently. So I would have looked at what this watch cost at retail. Then I said, okay, that's the bare minimum. Obviously, you have premiums. Probably that was 25%.
There are no premiums on this because it's a charity auction. No premiums at all.
Did they absorb it?
Yep.
Oh. So I would have automatically done minimum 25% markup for charity. And in the Netherlands, if this was a registered charity in the Netherlands, it's tax deductible, right? So I don't know if I would go to Monaco and it's tax deductible. Assuming it is, I would have done maybe double of retail because then in the end, I would have paid retail, right?
Right.
So I done this watch is probably retail around 30, 35. I don't know by heart. And I'm not even factoring that's a pièce unique. So how much did it go for?
I want to know, would you have bid on this if you were in the crowd? Would you actually have put your hand up?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you would have bid what?
Well, I've just said that. Let's hypothetically assume that retail is 30.
Yeah.
And I just said I would have done double, so 60.
It went for 17.
No way.
Now, I think you would have bought this if you were in the crowd. I honestly think I could have seen your paddle going up for 18,000, for God's sake. I mean, you'd pay 18,000 given all of
course.
I mean, you buy watches like that on the regular. Like, this is crazy.
I would have felt guilty taking the winning bid because I've just said in episode 1 that you should be ashamed as a bidder if you don't pay at least the retail price because it's a steal. It's theft. You're not giving enough to charity.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, obviously, a retail price isn't a cost price to the brand, but I see what you're saying theoretically.
Listen, let's be realistic. Everybody who's bidding here doesn't care if they get the watch or don't. They don't even remember what they paid, and they're definitely not going to feel it in their bank account. Let's be realistic.
So what's gone on here then? Why is a Trilobe getting 17,000 on the Hammer only watch?
You know what? I owe you that answer. I assume I can watch the whole auction back on video.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I don't know how many hours that is. I don't know if I'll do it this week, but I'm very curious now.
Okay.
What went wrong there?
So let's move on to Urwerk. This is not a watch. This is a wonderful clock. We've played around with it ourselves many times. Estimated price 45 to 80,000. Did it make it? Did it miss it? Did it mash it?
It made it because Urwerk is the old new kid on the block that is part of the establishment right now. They're up there with MB&F and etc. It's not a wristwatch. It's a weird thing. It's basically decoration for your home. It's for those that want to geek out. It's so much fun because you and I actually spent a lot of time together with Felix and Martin together for over an hour. I hoped it went for $250,000. It didn't. It went for 120.
It went for 65.
Okay. We've said today in this episode that if you get your estimate, you've done well. If it's bang in the middle, it's okay. It's okay. Whomever bought it, enjoy it because it's a joy and you got a bargain.
So the fact that these lots are presented alphabetically sometimes favors brands and sometimes hinders them. The lot following the Urwerk may have hindered it slightly, and that's the Voutilainen. And it's another piece unique, obviously, from Kari and his team. Estimate 175,000 Swiss francs to 215. I want to hear your numerical guess because I think we know what direction you go in for this one.
I don't think it reached 100. I would say 85.
Seriously?
Yeah.
This is your biggest miss.
Oh.
It hit 450.
What?
Yeah, 450. Yeah.
Oh.
For real.
Okay, so you know what? Voutilainen is hot because it has nothing to do with a beautiful case, dial, and bidders were all over the place. Wow. I'm in shock.
Yeah, it's not his best case, I don't think. The dial is an arresting shade of green, and interesting to have the blue and yellow elements mixed on there. I think it's pretty cool. It's got a sporty vibe. I'm not hugely surprised that it met and exceeded the estimate. 450 is a lot, but it is Kari, and I think his name carries a huge amount of weight. Last piece, or should I say last pieces, because Zenith very kindly submitted 4-piece uniques, 4 unique versions of their Chronomaster Sport Watch with yellow on yellow, red on red, green on green, and blue on blue. The estimate was a very approachable 45 to 55k, and I don't mean that tongue-in-cheek, as I often do, because if you have 3 watch buddies and you all banded together and said, okay, shall we put in a low estimate bid of 11,250 each for one of these piece uniques and then share them amongst yourselves, that's not a bad price for a Chronomaster Sport that no one else has on their wrist. So I could have seen this one doing quite well, but how did you read it, Alon?
Retail is around 11 something. So you're right. You can pick up a pièce unique. They have done a lot of Chronomaster Sport collabs with a Japanese retailer. I forgot the name. I think Niyoda or something. There was something similar there. I love these combinations. In the good old days, especially when there was more than a year waiting list on the Chronomaster Sport, this would have gone for maybe 200k. I think it got double of the low end of the estimate, 90,000.
Try doubling the high end estimate.
What?
110.
Okay, good.
110. Yeah.
It shows Zenith is really, really going back to reaching its star. So I'm actually happy to hear about that.
Yeah, ends on a positive note. I think actually for brands, auction, and bidder, because I think 27.5 grand is certainly not chump change, but to have a unique, very wearable, even though it's bright, slightly under the radar Zenith for less than 30k is kind of cool. I wouldn't pay that myself for one of these pieces, but I think that that's a really fair price, and I think that the numbers look good for the auction. And like you said, it paints the brand in an excellent light. Okay, so that's it. That wraps up the entire auction. The obvious talking points are the 15.7 million Patek Philippe, which we'll get back to at some point. We'll talk about the Trilobe at a later date, because that is fascinating. We'll dissect the Lederer disaster at a future point, I'm sure, and I can't wait to see what questions the network poses us regarding the auction results and Alon's excellent, enthusiastic, sometimes bombastic analysis thereof. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out this episode?
I don't. Thank you for this fun ride, double ride. And I really hope that brands will keep on donating to OnlyWatch. And I hope that OnlyWatch will definitely come back. And I hope we'll see more watch auctions again. I don't know what happened to Pink Dial Project. That was a cool watch-related charity thing. Maybe you and I, Rob, should one day initiate a TRTS watch-related charity thing.
I'd love to. It was always our goal when we started the podcast to be a force for good and to give back into the watchmaking industry. So that would be an opportunity for us, I'm sure, to make good on those intentions. To help us get to that point, of course, please like, follow, share, and subscribe the podcast. And do join the TRTS network. That's our WhatsApp group where you can meet lots of like-minded watch lovers. You can join by just sending us a DM either on Instagram, either via the official handle that's at therealtime.show, or via my channel, ROBNUDDS, Alon's, which is ALONBENJOSEPH, or David's, which is DAVAUCHER, or via the contact form on the website, which can be found at www.therealtime.show, or you can hit us up via email, either Rob, Alon, or David at therealtime.show. Thanks for joining us on this OnlyWatch rundown. We hope to do more shows like this in the future, and please let us know if there's a format we haven't approached yet, because we'd be happy to entertain that idea also. Until next time, stay safe and keep on ticking.